Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Treezzy One Piece, and before we hop into the video, I want to make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Now to the video. Luffy, son of Dragon, grandson of Garp, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, wanted by the Marines, and the main character of One Piece. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all things Luffy, starting from his backstory to where he's headed in the future. Alright, so who is Monkey D. Luffy? Well, Monkey D. Luffy is the protagonist of this great story that we love to call One Piece. As you can see back here, he is a wanted pirate and goes by the epithet Straw Hat. So, where was he born? He was born, we don't actually know exactly where he was born, but we know that he grew up in Fuchsia Village in the Goa Kingdom, and then later on the mountain right outside of it. So, who is his parents? Well, we only know one of his parents, which is Dragon. And Dragon is the world's most wanted man and the leader of the revolutionaries. Now, Dragon wasn't around for very long, because as we know, we saw Luffy as a small child in Fuchsia Village growing up with no parents in sight. So, now we're going to talk about Shanks. Why is Shanks so important to the story, and why does Luffy hold Shanks so close and dear to his heart? Well, Shanks had the Straw Hat before Luffy did, and as we know, Roger had that before Shanks. So that means that Luffy has some part of Roger, Shanks, and now himself in that hat. So basically, by saying that they're all three of them connected, literally and figuratively, by the way that they're going to change the world. We know that Shanks influenced Luffy to be a pirate and just go out and have his own adventure like Shanks and be a great pirate. We even know that when Shanks gave Luffy the Straw Hat, he said, "Bring this back to me when you become a great pirate." And the reason why Luffy set out on his adventure is to one day meet up with Shanks, since he hasn't seen him since he was a child, and return the Straw Hat back to him. Now, we're going to talk on why the Straw Hat is so important. Well, as we know, the Straw Hat was Roger's, and then Shanks, and now Luffy's. Well, as we saw in the Reverie, it was a giant Straw Hat under Pangea Castle at Meridian. And so we can assume that that belongs to somebody back in the Void Century, and that it is important to the history and then the future of the story that we're going to have. So that means by the Straw Hat being Roger's first, and then Shanks, and then Luffy's, it makes it to where Luffy has the inherited will, like some part of the inherited will of Roger. Roger has a free spirit and ultimately became the king of the pirates, a goal that Luffy has striving to achieve by the end of his journey. Now, let's talk about his brothers by not blood but by oath, Ace and Sabo. As we know, they all three of them met on the mountain with the Dawn, and they grew up having it was very rough at first between the three of them, but then as time went on, they became brothers, and then they became to love each other. As we know, they all set out to be great pirates and have an adventure on the sea. As we know, Sabo left first, and then but on his way out of the little lake area, his ship got blown up. So after that, from that point on, Sabo was presumed dead by everybody that he loved and knew. But in reality, we know that Dragon went and picked him up and saved him, and then raised him as a revolutionary. Now let's go on to Ace. So after that, Ace and Luffy became even closer, and we know that Ace would later go on to make his own pirate crew, the Spade Pirates, eat the Marinara no Mi, start his own pirate crew, and then ultimately he was invited to join the Warlords. So what that means is that the Warlords are the 7 strongest pirates in the government's eyes that they can control. But the thing is with Ace, most people would accept it because they mean they could do whatever they want under the world government's umbrella. But Ace knew that if he did that, he wouldn't be as free as he wanted to be at the start. And knowing that, he declined, and then he went on to challenge the Yonko Whitebeard, as we all know. So after losing to Whitebeard multiple times and trying to take his life away from him, Ace eventually got beat down, and then Whitebeard asked him to join his crew. So Shanks obviously said yes, as you don't turn down the strongest man in the world at the time. And his crew went into Whitebeard's crew, and he became the 2nd Division commander. As we know, Blackbeard, Marshal D. Teach, was also part of the Whitebeard crew at the time that Ace had joined up. So now we're going to touch on to the Marineford saga and everything leading up to Ace's death, because this also affected Luffy in many different ways. So we all know that Ace went to fight Blackbeard and lost, and he got turned into the world government, leading to impel down Marineford. So Luffy breaking into the jail to save Ace shows how much he really cares about his brother Ace. And we all know if that was one of us in the situation, we would try to do the same if we were in the One Piece world. So after Impel Down didn't go as planned, we went into Marineford. And Marineford was a big war with Whitebeard and Luffy, where Ace was on the execution platform, and then the Whitebeard pirates that showed up to stop it, basically. So after hours of Luffy fighting through waves of Marines, warlords, anybody that was trying to get in his way, he finally saved Ace from being executed. They got him down off the platform, and they were on the retreat back to the ship, basically. As we know, Akainu was talking down on Whitebeard's name and saying that he would never amount to anything, and that Whitebeard was a trash person, basically. And after that, we saw Ace turn around and try to strike up a fight with Akainu. As we know, Akainu would later go for Luffy and try to kill him, but Ace would stop it with, himself. And that made Luffy realize that he can't do everything, like at the time, at the power level that he was. He realized after Marineford, when he saw Ace die in front of him, that he could not stop everything. If he couldn't save his brother, he couldn't save his friends. He couldn't take on the world as he was now. And that leads us to the time skip. So, Luffy changed the Straw Hats meetup days from 3 days to 2 years later. So during the time skip, he went up to Silver's Rayleigh and asked him to train him in the ways of Haki and just make him stronger as fast as possible in the 2-year time span that he had. So we know then that Haki was introduced, Conquerors, Armament, and Observation. And we know that Rayleigh gave Luffy the basic rundown on all three, and that Luffy also had Conqueror's Haki, which made him very special because not many people have that. On top of the fact with hearing the voice of all things, he has a very wide power. Speaking of powers, let's talk about his power set. So Luffy has the Gomu Gomu no Mi, as we all know, Armament Haki, some sort of Observation, and Conquerors. So what does this allow him to do? Well, his basic Gomu Gomu no Mi powers allows him to stretch any part of so the basic part of his fruit is that he is rubber. So that means any of his body can stretch out. He's basically immune to blunt attacks, and anything that bounces against him gets repelled. And yeah. So let's touch on Armament Haki. So Armament Haki basically makes something really super strong. Like you can't break it. If you use Armament Haki on your arm and punch somebody, they're gonna get hurt really bad. And as we know, even Armament Haki can even hurt a Logia user. So we know that that's a big plus to Luffy's power set and his strengths and advantages. Now let's touch on Conquerors. Conquerors is a very specific power set that we don't actually know yet. We don't know the full scope. We don't know if Luffy could use Conquerors to amplify his Gomu Gomu no Mi powers or anything else. We don't know if he could make weapons or weather-related events happen, like tornadoes or lightning. We don't know the full scope of Conqueror's Haki. We barely even touched on it. And only a select group of people have that. We don't know how that's decided, but we've seen major villains and even people on our side that have it, and it's very rare. It's not a very common ability to have, so Luffy having that is another reason why he will become the king of the pirates. And Observation Haki. Observation Haki basically allows you to see things that a normal human with their eyes won't be able to see. And so basically, if somebody's walking up behind you and is about to punch you in the back, you could basically sense it or see it and dodge out the way before that happens. And we saw that when right after the time skip, when the Pax Pieces was shooting the lasers at Luffy, he was barely moving his head, but he was still dodging every shot before it hit him. And later on, when he was fighting Katakuri, we see the evolution of Observation Haki and Future Sight, which basically allows him to see a certain amount of time into the future, and he could dodge any attack that's coming at him as long as he can see it in the future that he sees, basically, and it doesn't change the attack. Now, let's talk about the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats are a very important thing to Luffy. It's his pirate crew, it's his Nakama, and it's basically his family that he acquired along the journey. So, the first member that joined was Zoro, then Usopp, Nami, and everything else goes after that. So, the very early crew were very important to him because those were the first people along his journey that really saw something in him and took a chance to go follow Luffy. We know that Zoro would rather give up his dream than not see Luffy succeed and become the king of the pirates when he nailed down. So, what's the story for Luffy next? Well, we know right now he has a fight to win, and if Wano is going to the Kabuki play like story structure as we think it is, he's gonna take a loss on the roof and at the end of Act 3. But never fear, in the Kabuki plays, Act 4 is where the heroes rise up and defeat the antagonists that they're facing. So hopefully, if this is the way the story goes, we won't have to see Luffy down bad for a long time. So how does he win this fight with Kaido? Well, we know that the Toki prophecy said 9 people. So there's gonna be some people joining the people on the roof that we have now. Who they may be, I don't know. I might make a video of that at a later date. But we know that they're gonna win eventually, as Luffy always does. And if they don't win, it's gonna be very shocking. But what's past Wano? What's in-game story? Well, I hope personally that the Straw Hats will go to Elbaf, maybe have a small mini training arc or a time skip for a couple months, and then go on to the final arc, the final war with Blackbeard, and we see the Celestial Dragon stuff with the Revolutionaries. Basically all that wrapped into one arc. There might be some arcs spread out in between. I don't know. I'm not Oda. I'm not Oda myself, but if I had to theorize on what I would like to see, it would probably be something along those lines. And we know that eventually at the end of the story, big spoilers, Luffy's gonna become the king of the pirates. Yeah, we all assume that, and if it doesn't happen, we wouldn't be reading One Piece anymore. We would all not like it. So we're gonna see Luffy become the king of pirates, but the question is, how does he get there? And that, my friends, is a question for another day. So this has been Cheesy One Piece, signing out.